ラストは二度と渡さない。もう二度とあんな悲劇は繰り返させない。そのためにも必ずこの俺の手でシティを守り抜いてみせる。クリアマインドレベル8シンクロモンスタースターダストドラゴンにレベル2シンクロチューナーフォーミュラーシンクロをチューニング。集いし夢の結晶が新たな進化の扉を開く。光さす道となれ。アクセルシンクロ将来せよシューティングスタードラゴン。
Hey guys, welcome back to Team 6K. This is Undead, and today we're going to be talking about Synchrons. We're going back to Shooting Star Road, and that's for a very simple reason. Shooting Star Road loses to DD Crow, and nobody plays DD Crow because it's not good enough against Orcust, and it's not that good against the rest of the meta. And the other version of Synchrons loses to MST, Cosmic, cards that everybody plays. If you're looking to get a really damn nice version of that deck, go check out Paptrick's channel. One of his recent Synchron decks can put up 2 monster negates and a summon negate, which is absolutely amazing. Like I said, it will lose to MST, so that's why you might want to play this version of the deck. However, we want to know how the deck works first of all. To understand the deck, first we have to understand the skill Shooting Star Road. At the beginning of the duel, place a junk converter to your graveyard. In addition, if you control a Stardust Dragon, play Formula Synchron to the field from outside of your deck. Then you can, optionally, place 3 tuners to the top of your deck from outside of your deck. You can only special summon Wind Dragon type Synchro monsters or Warrior Synchro monsters until the end of your opponent's next turn. This skill can only be used once per duel if you begin the duel with a deck that contains the following conditions: deck that contains at least 8 junk or synchron monsters, and an extra deck that contains at least a shooting star dragon and at least 4 junk, synchron or stardust monsters. There's a lot to unpack here, so we're going to go one bit at a time. So that first part, at the beginning of the duel, place a junk converter to your graveyard. Junk converter is a level 2 non-tuner, and it's good to have it in the graveyard immediately because of the normal summon effect of junk synchron. On normal summon, you can target a level 2 or lower monster in your graveyard, special summon that target in defense position, but it has its effects negated. It doesn't matter that it has its effects negated because it doesn't actually have any on-field effects. It does, however, have an effect that will trigger as soon as you use it as synchro material. So of course we're going to use the junk synchron and the junk converter to go into junk warrior, and then the junk converter will activate its graveyard effect that, if used as synchro material, revive any tuner. So of course we can revive our junk synchron and go into a level 8 synchro very easily just by normal summoning that junk synchron, because the skill will guarantee our junk converter in the graveyard. Next, if you control a Stardust Dragon, play Formula Synchron to the field from outside of your deck. So the combo I just mentioned that gets you a junk warrior, then revives a tuner, you're going to revive the junk synchron, then you can go right into Stardust Dragon with 5+3, then since you control the Stardust Dragon, you can go into Formula Synchron. It won't be considered a synchro summon, so you won't get to draw the card. However, you will be able to do an Excel synchro summon. You go into Shooting Star Dragon, and if you choose to put 3 tuners on top of the deck, then this guy can excavate the top 5 cards of your deck and attack this turn equal to the amount of cards revealed by this effect. So you're going to get a guaranteed 3 attacks with a 3300 body. Shooting Star Dragon can also negate destruction and also negate attacks by banishing itself, and then it'll come back on the end phase. But if you're going first, you might not want to summon this just because it's a good OTK card. It's not that great going first. Going first, instead, you're going to summon Stardust Warrior during either player's turn. If your opponent would special summon a monster or monsters at the same time, you can trip this card, negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster. And during the end phase, if this card was activated this turn and wasn't negated, you can special summon this card from your graveyard. And then if this card is destroyed by battle, or this face-up card you control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon a level 8 or lower warrior synchro monster from your extra deck. So we could summon a junk warrior off of this floating effect, or we could summon a jet warrior that, if it is synchro summoned and the floating effect will count it as a synchro summon, you can target a card your opponent controls and return it to the hand. And if this card is in your graveyard, you can tribute a level 2 or lower monster, special summon this card in defense position, but banish it when it leaves the field. That's kind of nice because in a follow-up situation, if you got the jet warrior in the grave, you could normal summon junk synchron, revive any of your level 2 or lowers, use the jet warrior to tribute one of them to summon itself, then you have the required materials for a level 8 on the field. And then the skill can only only be used once per duel if you begin the duel with a deck that contains the following conditions below. The deck has to contain at least 8 junk or synchron monsters, so that's why we do have a total of 8 monsters. That is the bare minimum we can play. So of course, Junk Converter, such as Junk Synchron. Jet Synchron is a synchron, can be discarded by Junk Converter, but can also be used alongside a Junk Warrior to go into Brionac Dragon of the Ice Barrier. How would we do that? Normal summon Junk Synchron, revive Converter, go into Junk. Converter will then re-summon Jet from grave to go into Brionac. And what's great about that is we all know that Jet Synchron can special summon itself from grave by discarding a card, but if we choose not to use that effect, it has another effect if used as a synchro material. That being that it will search a Junk monster from deck to hand. So you could search another copy of Junk Synchron or search another copy of Junk Converter. It doesn't matter. What matters here is that once you use it as material for Brionac, the Jet Synchron will guarantee that you have a bonus discard fodder for the activation of Brionac Dragon of the Ice Barrier. And then your extra deck has to contain at least 1 Shooting Star Dragon and at least 4 Junk, Synchron, or Stardust monsters. So we do fulfill the condition of the 1 Shooting Star Dragon, and then we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 other monsters that fulfill the same conditions. Jet Warrior doesn't actually fulfill the conditions, even though it is a part of the overall theme. The Warrior Synchro archetype isn't included in the skills requirements. So we are playing the bare minimum, but it does help that we have 2 Junk Warrior because it allows us to activate Synchro Overtake twice. Synchro Overtake is not only an extender but a starter. It's a normal spell that reveals a Synchro in your extra deck and chooses one of the Synchro materials mentioned on it, add it to your hand, or special summon that monster from the deck or graveyard. So you don't always want to special summon it. You could just reveal Junk Warrior because it requires Junk Synchron to add Junk Synchron to your hand so you can get that beneficial normal summon effect. But you could, if you wanted, use Synchro Overtake to special summon a monster. You could reveal Shooting Star Dragon in your extra deck, which requires Stardust Dragon, so you can revive Stardust Dragon with a Synchro Overtake. But regardless, you can only Synchro Summon during the turn you activate this, and you can only use 1 per turn. Something nice about Synchro Overtake is that it can also special summon or add a Jet Synchron. Helps us to go into Brio more consistently. What's new and makes this deck worth playing again is Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. It requires a tuner and 1 or more non-tuner synchro monsters. What a coincidence. We can use Junk Warrior as our non-tuner synchro monster and Junk Synchron as our tuner to summon Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. And once per turn, during either player's turn, when another monster's effect is activated, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that monster. And if you do that, this card gains attack equal to the destroyed monster's original attack until the end of this turn. Also, if this card battles a level 5 or higher monster your opponent controls during damage calculation, this card gains attack equal to the current attack of the opponent's monster it is battling during the damage calculation only. This is going to be so insane. But if that's all we can do, then you might as well play Speedroid, you might as well play the other version of Synchrons, but we can go further. We also have Necroid Synchro. You can banish a tuner and up to 2 non-tuners from your grave, and if you do, special summon a Stardust Synchro monster from your extra deck whose levels equal to the total levels of those banished monsters, but it has its effects negated and it's counted as a synchro summon. What is good about this? Well, you know the normal play that allows us to go into Stardust Dragon. Instead of summoning Stardust Dragon, we summon Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Then we have the materials for Stardust Dragon in the graveyard, so we can use Necroid Synchro, summon Stardust Dragon with its effects negated, then use the skill to put Formula Synchro on the field, Excel Synchro those 2 into Stardust Warrior or Shooting Star Dragon, and it doesn't matter that Stardust is negated because now we've used it as material for a better monster. And a reason that you might prefer to play this version of the deck is because it is very one-track minded. It has 1 game plan, and that 1 game plan is supported very easily by a very short amount of the deck's slots, so we can fill the deck with a decent amount of staples. So we got 3 Forbidden Chalice, 3 Forbidden Land, but we're sticking to the game plan in this deck and we're going to get off what we need to get off. We can put up some pretty decent boards in this deck, and when we don't, then we definitely have at least a solid board with a negate and some back row behind. So let's get into how exactly we do all those things in the combo tutorials. Okay, so for this first combo, what you're going to need is some access to Junk Synchron, and that is the only thing you need, okay, just for this first combo, alright? And with the Junk Synchron, of course, I have the Junk Converter, which can act as a Junk Synchron because it can discard a tuner and itself to search for Junk Synchron. And we already have the guaranteed Junk Converter in the grave already, so we're going to then normal summon Junk Synchron, activate its on summon effect to revive a Junk Converter, and then when it is summoned, we get to use both of them for a Junk Warrior, and that will trigger the converter effect engrave to resummon a tuner to the field. So we get to activate that, resummon, usually Junk Synchron. So we summon that, then we get to go into Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. This is a fantastic turn 1 play that you can do, and you set your back row because you didn't have any more extenders. It means that you have back row because everything in here is basically a starter, an extender, or a back row. If you had your starter, you had your starter. If you didn't have an extender, the only thing left to have most of the time is back row, right? So we got our Forbidden Lance, Forbidden Chalice, so we can protect our Crystal Ring Synchro Dragon. We've got the Crystal Wing to negate their important plays, and then we're very likely to top deck into another starter because we have so many of them in the deck. For this second combo, what you're going to need is some access to Junk Synchron and then a Necroid Synchro. This is going to be one of the other boards you can make with this deck that we're going to get pretty often because we do have 3 Necroid Synchro. So we're going to normal summon that Junk Synchron, activate its effect right away to revive the Junk Converter from our grave that is automatically placed there by the skill. Then we can use both of them, go into Junk Warrior, you know, some of the prismatic one of course, might as well, and then that'll convert our Junk Synchron back on the field. And then here we go into Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon just like we did in the previous combo. And then, but it doesn't end here, so we then activate Necroid Synchro, banish Junk Warrior and Junk Synchron from the graveyard to summon Stardust Dragon from our extra deck with its effects negated. That'll allow us to activate the skill right away, and that'll put Formula Synchron on the field. And then it'll ask you to place the designated card at the top of the deck. What it's designating here is the 3 tuners. If you want to summon Shooting Star Dragon, you say yes to this. If you want to summon Stardust Warrior, you say no to this, because having those 3 at the top of your deck isn't going to be helpful for you because they're not very good cards, unless you're trying to specifically excavate them using the effect of Shooting Star Dragon to attack for game with it. So normally we say no to it with a Stardust Warrior. So I'm going to say no to it here, but say yes if you want to go into Shooting Star Dragon. Then we can go right into Stardust Warrior. Why would we go right into Stardust Warrior? Well, if the opponent has a Book of Moon or a Forbidden Chalice, they can negate the Formula Synchron in response to the Formula Synchron, meaning that we're not going to be able to get that Stardust Warrior. So I prefer to just do it on my own main phase. However, you can definitely do it differently if you like. You wouldn't be wrong for doing it the way you want to do it. It's all good. Regardless, we're going to have a negate on the field, whether it be Stardust Warrior or Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. And this is the field we're going to be pushing against our opponent a decent amount of the time. You can extend this combo even further by having just the same as I said in the combo tutorial number 2. You have a Junk Synchron and a Necroid Synchro, and you end on this exact field here. But if you have a Synchro Overtake in your hand and you have not used a Synchro Overtake yet, you can of course activate it, resummon Stardust Dragon, because we get to reveal Shooting Star, resummon Stardust Dragon. Its effects will no longer be negated, and if the opponent wants to use Dark Hole or something against us, we can just use the Stardust Dragon and negate it. I made a post showing this field earlier and you guys were pretty excited for it, and this is how you do it. There is, however, another combo that I have to show you. So this last combo could be done as a follow-up play. It could also be done going first if you happen to have, as long as you happen to have some way of getting Jet Synchron in the grave and having a Junk Synchron to normal summon. We could either get Jet Synchron in the grave by searching for it or already having it and then discarding it with a Junk Converter to search for Junk Synchron, or we could just have the combo standardly and use a Synchro Overtake to special summon Jet Synchron from the deck by revealing a Jet Warrior. So what we're going to do here, I don't have the Junk Synchron yet. I'm going to use Junk Converter, discard Jet Synchron. That's one of the ways we could get it, get that Junk Synchron, and here's what we're going to do. So we're going to normal summon the Junk Synchron, activate its on summon effect to revive Junk Converter, use those 2 to go right into the prismatic Junk Warrior. That'll allow us to convert not the Junk Synchron, but the Jet Synchron. We're not summoning it by its own summoning condition because you can only use one of its 2 effects in a given turn. It is going to boost up our Junk Warrior, but that doesn't matter. What we're going to do is go right into Brionac, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. That'll allow Jet Synchron to activate its effect on Synchro Summon. So it'll activate its effect, search for any Junk monster from deck to hand. I usually search for Junk Converter so I can keep some copies of Junk Synchron in the deck. So I'll search for this one, and basically just from having that combo we get a free discard fodder for the Brionac Dragon of the Ice Barrier. So if we just so happen to start our turn and the only card in our hand is Junk Synchron, but we do have a Jet Synchron in the graveyard, we will still get 1 free discard fodder for Brionac. Even better if you're going second and you do this as your opening play, it'll allow you to wipe your opponent's field and then go right into a Necroid Synchro, which will allow you to summon Stardust Dragon from your extra deck, which will then allow you to activate the skill, and we can say yes to putting the tuners on top of the deck, go into our big boss monster Shooting Star Dragon, activate its effect to get that guaranteed look at 3 tuners from the top of our deck, that being Turbo Synchron, Nitro Synchron, and Hyper Synchron, and then probably a couple of other spells because it's a very spell heavy deck, and then we can attack 3 times with Shooting Star Dragon after bouncing our opponent's field with a Brionac. If your opponent knows how to correctly interrupt Synchrons, regardless of which version of Synchrons you're playing, it's probably going to hurt, and that's why I feel like Shooting Star Road might be the better version to play, because we can 1-card combo with this deck, and because we can 1-card combo, we can have a lot of room for bonus cards to help us play through interruptions. Of course, Forbidden Lance can help protect us against back row, Forbidden Chalice can help protect us against monster-based interruptions, Necroid Synchro can help us get more bodies out on the field after the opponent's wasted all of their interruptions, and Synchro Overtake is also good for special summoning bonus monsters to help us keep going. This is the deck I actually got to King of Games with this month. I'm very happy to get to King of Games with Synchrons. The Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon inspired me. I love Crystal Wing. It was my first boss monster when I started playing the TCG, and the deck is definitely competitive. I personally feel this might be the best way to play Synchrons moving forward. But yeah, let's get into the replay, shall we? Okay, so I'm going first here. My hand is pretty nice, so I'm going to activate Synchro Overtake to go ahead, grab me a copy of Junk Synchron, then I can go ahead normal summon that Junk Synchron, revive the converter, of course, go into Junk Warrior, I love this guy, and then revive, of course, the Junk Synchron. And because we do have the Necroid Synchro in hand, we can go into Crystal Wing and then use the Necroid Synchro to go into Stardust Dragon, so we're not even sacrificing anything. Then we can go use our skill, get our Formula Synchron on the field, Accel Synchro into Stardust Warrior, and we have a Summon Negate and a Crystal Wing Negate, and Stardust Warrior also floats, and if they want to use back row against us, so we can use the Forbidden Lance to protect it. So it's going to be very difficult to break the board. They decide, I'm not even going to try to break that board, but he's got some back row here to try to like play us through and then follow up. He's going to use Compulsory, I'm going to use Forbidden Lance, he's going to use Crackdown, but unfortunately taking control of my Stardust Warrior is actually going to be his downfall. So he's going to take control of it, I'm going to attack into him, and then comes back to his turn, he sets another back row, but he doesn't attack into me. Why doesn't he attack into me? Because Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon is going to get buffed into 6k attack. That's right, Team 6k, which will then kill my Stardust Warrior, which will then allow me to float into Jet, which allow me to bounce his back row. Unfortunately for him though, I'm just going to use Synchro Overtake, right? Resummon Stardust Dragon, he can't really respond to that. I'm going to use my Crystal Wing to attack into his Stardust Warrior, and check this out, check out these attack points. 6k, which will allow my Stardust Warrior to go into Jet Warrior, bounce his remaining back row, and attack for game with Stardust Dragon. Alright, my opponent's going first here, and they are playing Odd Eyes, so they're going to set up their scales, activate the skill right away, which will give them a free level 4, and a free something into their extra deck of their choice, and they're going to pick to put a Dragon Pulse in there. So they're going to Pendulum Summon 4 monsters, that being 2 Odd Eyes, a level 4 and a level 3, then he's going to Xyz into his Volothernagis, the Darkest Dragon. Then I'll top deck a Chalice, must be nice, but anyway, I'm going to discard Junk Converter and Jet Synchron to allow me to search for Junk Synchron, you know, just in case I want to go for Brio. Then I'll normal summon, revive the Junk Converter, go into my Junk Warrior. He seems not to know when to interrupt me, but he's going to interrupt me here. I'm going to go for Junk Synchron, he's going to decide to pop me, I'm going to Forbidden Chalice him, of course, that is why we play it, that's why we play 3 copies of it, right? But then, I'm going to Synchro Summon Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. He did interrupt me at the right time. If he had interrupted me a second later, I would have just negated it with the Crystal Wing or the Stardust. Then I can summon Stardust Dragon, activate the skill, and I'm going to also put 3 tuners on the top, and you know what that means. I'm going to go Accel Synchro Shooting Star Dragon. Then I can reveal the top 5 cards of my deck. That's going to be guaranteed 3 tuners and probably 2 spells, as we see 2 spells here. Then I can attack 3 times with Shooting Star Dragon, and then finally for game with Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Alright, my opponent is going first and they're playing Heroes. Lucky them, they got the Neos, so they get to search for Super Polymerization. Oh my goodness, that's going to be tough to get through. However, I do have a Necroid Synchro, so I'm probably going to be able to at least play through it. So I get the Lance, even better, especially because he has 3 back rows. So I'm going to search for Junk Synchron, discarding the Jet Synchron. I'm going to revive the Converter. He's going to try to bounce me. I'm going to Forbidden Lance it so I can keep going with my Synchro play. I'm going to go into Junk Warrior, convert, go into the the Junk Synchron. At this point, as soon as I summon Junk Warrior, it's going to be difficult for him to Super Poly me, because if he gets rid of my Junk Warrior, then, you know, I might have a Necroid Synchro and I can keep going anyway. And if he gets rid of my Junk Synchron, then I might have a Synchro Overtake and I can get another Synchro anyway. So he's playing the smart game, he's waiting for the last moment here. And a Crystal Wing doesn't mean all that much to him apart from attack points. So I'm going to go for that Necroid Synchro, go into Stardust Dragon, and even though I'm going second, I'm going to say no to the effect to put tuners on top because I'm going to go for Stardust Warrior. Why am I going for Stardust Warrior though? Because if he uses my Stardust Warrior as fusion material, then I get to summon a Jet from my extra deck. So that's how I'm going to go for it. He's going to use Super Poly using my Crystal Wing, very intelligent, but he's going to go into Great Tornado, put me in half. I'm going to crash so I can go directly into my Jet Warrior, which will bounce his fusion so I can attack. And he's just got 1 card, he's on the top deck mode, and he top decks a Neos. Must be nice, right? But I'm going to top deck a Junk Synchron, of course. I do have plenty of them in my deck, right? So I'm going to revive the Junk Converter, then I'm going to go into Junk Warrior, which will then allow my Converter to revive Jet Synchron. And we went through the combo tutorial, right? This is going to go us into Brionek, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Then we can search any junk, discard 2 cards to get rid of his 2 remaining cards, and I can go in for game. Long-time fans of the channel will know that Synchrons is definitely my favorite deck, and I'm so glad that we got Crystal Wing for this deck. Of course, there is that other version of the deck that does still play Bonds, but if you wanted to play that version, go ahead and look at Paptrick's version. Like I said before, his version is pretty nice, but I do feel like this version is better because it has more room for playing through interruptions, and it is at the end of the day a 1-card combo that doesn't lose to MST. But guys, let me know how you feel about Synchrons in the comments. If you have any questions about how this deck operates, be sure to let me know in the comments below and we can talk about it. But yeah, if you like the video, subscribe if you're new around here, hit that bell to get notified every time we make a new video. Check out the socials, and I've been Undead from Team 6K, signing out.
Wait, hey, I feel like the greatest. Nah, I feel like they hate it. Nah, I feel like the only one and there is no debating. Man, I feel like they leaving. Nah, I feel like they waited. Nah, I feel like this is the feeling before I can make it. Before I hit the stage, I just feel like I'm nauseous. Or I feel like I'm popping. Or I feel like a boss is. Maybe I'm feeling off it. Or I feel like I'm toxic. Maybe feeling intoxicated is the reason for all this. I wanna whip it with the top down, dog, like I'm Earth Gang. Told him, listen, wild day shine like my first name. Told me go and grab a titty boy, it's my first chain. I ain't even switch gears yet, it's the first lane. The first pain I ever felt was the worst pain. Then church came, and that feeling of hurt came. Then her name made this feeling all worth pain. She made me realize what I had felt in the first place.